Hey, everybody. Welcome to another preview with an opposition fan. I couldn't find a fan channel this week. North Melbourne, I just couldn't find one. Just had a bit of a search. So what I decided to do was go and find a North Melbourne supporter who I actually love and adore. So I've got Joshy Beare with me now. Joshy, mate, first of all, welcome from Mill
Thank you.
Park to the Blue Broad YouTube channel.
Thanks, mate. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, we go way back from our teenage days, and then down at Thomastown Footy Club. And look at us now, mate. What's happening in your world?
Mate, it's all happening. It's all happening. Yeah, I still cherish those early days down at the old Mill Park Basketball Stadium, running amok, killing it as always. Yeah, for me now, since moving on from that, obviously started my own business in some disability support work. Absolutely loving it. A year into that and could not be happier. Bit of a background of that is, worked in a school as an education support worker for about 6 or 7 years. Also did some disability support work in the meantime. Found that my passion was just, helping. Love working with the community. Love working with people at risk. That was me growing up. So, to be a role model for some of these kids was always my passion. So yeah, since that, myself and one of my best mates, Andrew Loz, we decided let's grab the bull by the horns and let's set up a program that we believe is, killer, something that's really awesome, can change these kids' lives. And yeah, really wanted to, I guess, change that real dynamic of if you have a disability, you're all in the same category, really wanted to design some special programs that fit the individual, so like having some kids that want to learn how to drive or get into the workforce who might be a little bit more advanced to kids that are a bit more, younger or might be more sensory based. So yeah, that's me at the moment, mate. Absolutely loving it. Community Care Collective. Check us out. We are a community-based organization group that just lives off having fun and achieving goals. So that's us. That's what we're about.
Love it, mate. I will put the link in the description below for everyone in the audience to check out. And I would ask absolutely everyone watching this to check out the work that the guys are doing. It's phenomenal. It really is. And especially the growth over the 12 months, it's been nothing short of remarkable, mate. I'm super proud of you. And I know that there's a lot more to come. And this is really just the beginning.
Nah, appreciate it. Legend.
Now, you support North Melbourne.
Absolutely.
And, how did that happen?
I mean, to be honest, even go way back, my grandmother was a part of one of the earliest ever female football teams, which was, mate, 50s, 60s, like way back before, I guess, any kind of women's football was ever a thing. So to be honest, it all started with her. And if you met my grandmother, she is by far the biggest North supporter in the family. She is proper diehard, absolutely lives and breathes it. Even still now to this day, she will somehow record the games on a VCR. Don't even know if that's still a thing, but she will still make it work. I remember being a young one, on the following week going and having the little VCR recorders of every North Melbourne game. So that was always a highlight, being a young tacker and having grandparents that, embraced it with you. And I guess that kind of passed down on to my dad and my uncles. And yeah, football's always been such a big part of my life. I've played it since I was 7. And yeah, look, probably just missed out on that glory 90s for North. I mean, I caught it while I was young. Wish that it was maybe 10 years later, but I'll take it because I know that there are some clubs that have yet to see that success. So hopefully 10 years time from now, I'll be taking my kids to see the North in our glory day.
I love it. Well, I've got a bit of an affinity to North, a little bit. I've seen a couple. I've actually been to 2 games this year. I went to the Good Friday game. I went to round 1 as well against Hawthorn. Maybe you should let me know what is the sentiment on the North Melbourne side as a fan. What are you feeling? How are you feeling about what's going on?
Look, I mean, the positive that I'll take from it is the fact that for once, I do feel like it is in a position that it is moving forward correctly. Like I feel like we were losing games like we were now 5 years ago. yet our best players being like a Boomer Harvey, Jared Waite, Spud Ferrito, Petrie. So when you're losing games by 50, 60 points and your best players are at the peak of their career, that's tough as a fan because you just don't know what's next. But I guess as a Carlton fan, I'm sure you would know that seeing a quarter with young kids still gives you a sense of hope to think, you know what? I know it's only a quarter, but you know that it's there and you know that these kids have a bright future. So, you know, you look at Simpkin and Taron Thomas and, you know, Horn Francis now coming through and LDU and like these young kids, Sue Vlaki, the big Sue, like, you know that they have the potential to play. Zerha, you know, you just need to get those 4 quarters out of them. So, yeah, as I said, I'm not going to try and, you know, put a sunshine on it. It does suck losing games of footy, but to walk away from it and see some young kids really contest with the best, you know, that's always good to see. I just want to see us compete. That's the thing now. You know, I'm never bothered, to be honest, at a win or a loss. As I said, you know, we are in a rebuild. So for me now, to see us compete for 4 quarters is what I love as a fan. Losing by 100 against Brisbane, that's unacceptable. I don't care what, you know, that's not what you want. So, yeah, if we get glimpses as a fan, that's all I can ask for.
Yeah. You know, what I like about the way you guys did your rebuild is, yeah, like you said, you seem to have done it right. There are names all across the field who they're going to be stars. They're not just going to be good players. They're going to be genuine stars. And I do mean that. And what I also like was you went and got a coach from the outset who's got a bit of real seniority about him. I mean, when we did it 2015, 2016, we went and got Bolton, who was an untried coach who was an assistant for many years, and I get all of that. But David Noble seems, from the outside looking in, to be a guy with just serious seniority, principles, and ultimately you got to weed out whatever they've been learning beforehand, and you got to put some structure around them. And it takes time. It's the hardest part about supporting a club that's going through a rebuild.
No, absolutely. And I'm the same. I feel like, you know, having someone with that real seniority, as you said, almost can be as that real father figure role instead of being a bit of a mate mentor type setup. I think that having young kids, they do need someone. You know, you look, say, Brisbane again with Fags, having that real kind of senior, you know, father figure asset that, you know, it was amazing. So I think hopefully now could be something that Noble brings for us. You know, and I look forward to it. I think he's a good coach and I think he's got a great list and I think it's going to take a lot of time. So I think we've all just got to, unfortunately, wait out the dark days and hold on for the glory days. I'm just hoping that we have all of the young kids that we do, because that's probably the biggest challenge, is keeping them, you know?
Yeah.
Nervous with some of that.
Buy-in. Yeah.
That's it.
Now, mate, you've known me years. You know me. I'm a loudmouth, smack-talking Carlton supporter. I always have been. I think I've calmed down a little bit since back then. But what's your take of what's happening on my end in the Carlton Footy Club? Because it's been laughter for 20 years.
Mate, to be honest, look, I genuinely love Carlton as well. As in, don't get me wrong, I love them, but it's also probably one of the top 3 teams that I love to beat. I have a lot of family that are Carlton. I genuinely think that you guys have finally cracked it. You know, I think you've finally broke through that barrier of the, you know, kind of laughingstock team that never got the rebuild that they wanted. And I think, you know, Paddy Cribs is honestly one of my favorite players in the league. I've always been in awe of him, and I'm so glad to see him back to the standard that he brings. I was nervous. I know that he was carrying an injury, but it's hard, you know, when you see kind of week in, week out, just kind of mediocre footy from someone who's so good. So I'm rapt to see that he's back dominating. And obviously, like with Welsh coming through, mate, he is an absolute star. So I think Carlton are in good hands. And I think that you guys are where I want North to be in 3 years' time, 3 to 5 years' time. You know, I understand that you're going to lose games and they're going to have your off days. But yeah, super competitive, skillful, classy. And you're kind of developing into that team that's no longer just winning games because it's a lucky day. You know, you're genuinely winning games because you're a good football side. So Mate, yeah, look, I love Carlton, as I said. And yeah, look, yourself, and I know that there are a few other Carlton fans out there that are so passionate. And I think that's why teams love beating Carlton, because Carlton fans bleed for Carlton. And it's a credit to you guys. You know, I know that, say, Collingwood, similar team. I genuinely feel like any teams that are, I guess, hated by other teams is simply because how much passion their fans show. So yeah, look, mate, it's an unbelievable club, and hopefully there's success for you. But hopefully we absolutely roll you this week. That's probably where where I'd like to see it.
Well, I'll be honest. I did my preview the other day, and on the surface, I see the game. I'm like, we should be beating North Melbourne, and this isn't to be disrespectful, but like where we're at, where you're at, all of that. However, there's something about North Melbourne and Carlton, and there's just something about it. And if it happened last year, if we come out in any, even if it's just for a quarter, with any attitude other than giving North full respect, you can and you will beat us. And that's the thing that gives me a little bit of fear on the back of the shoulder. Like, yeah, on paper, we've got the stars, and they're 4, 5, 6 years. Wiedering and Mackay and all that, they're 7 years now into their careers. They're starting to really hit that prime time. But it's just something about North Melbourne that they find a way. They find a way to make it competitive. And
I think that's just, they know it. They know it too. That's like, I find, being someone who's played sport, I know you'd be similar, but when you have that team that either, you might be the team that beats that team that other teams don't normally beat, or the other way around, if you have just that cursed team that you struggle with, that is something that sits in the mind of players. I know Carlton and North have had battles for years, like back to 99 grand final. I feel like growing up as a young kid, I have had so many heart attack moments as a North fan against Carlton. There's been massive moments, and I hope for another contest this week. But you are right, Carlton, where they're at, are better on paper. But as we was discussing, having some of these good young talenters that North have, if we're in the game and if we're around it, and if it's not a blowout early, then yeah, look, I'm hoping for one of those days that the boys fire up, and get the job done. That'd be nice.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, you've been beaten by 10 plus goals 2 weeks in a row. You've got too many talented players for me for it to happen again, combined with we don't really know how to put teams away yet. You've seen us go up by 50 at halftime against Port and win by 3, up by 40 against Hawthorn, win by a kick. Like, we just haven't figured that out yet for whatever reason. And it's interesting because, I think we've improved. I think we're playing a better brand of footy, or a bit more tougher and all of that. But we kind of haven't had a real – we've had it almost easy-ish this year. What I mean by that is, like, last year, it felt like every second week there was like a devastatingly embarrassing loss, whereas we haven't quite had that yet. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think that, I guess, though, the credit, though, on that side is that you are at least winning those games. Because, see, imagine if we were sitting here and you were 50 points up and lost those 2 weeks. I think to have that professionalism to still close the game out, because being in the position where you're 50 points up and then having a team storm home at you at the end is very tough, and it demands a lot of professionalism to be able to say, like, boys, even though the team's coming, we need to get this win. So I think that's credit to Carlton, so that's a big plus, because if those 2 games were losses, then might be in a different position if Carlton are sitting there thinking, should have won and didn't. But yeah, look, I'm just hoping that we could be in that position to, as you said, not have embarrassing losses week in, week out, just compete, get a few wins. I couldn't care less if they were a point or 50 just to get them done. But yeah.
Love it. So for you, you said sort of 3 to 5 years you want to see North where Carlton is now. How long is the timeline, do you think? Like, what's the high level of the group? What do you need? What's missing?
Look, as we were saying, it's like, obviously, if we had the same list we do now, I know there's a lot of nerve in Horn Francis, being the fact that he's from Adelaide and the fact that he's played through the Adelaide system. I know he was in their AFL squad. So that is a bit nervy, because at the end of the day, I feel like if you're having someone away from home, something that's going to keep them there is if success is in the road ahead. If it's something that's just week in, week out, embarrassing loss, and if there's not that aura around the club that we're actually going to do something, then that's when players like that start thinking, well, I'm going to go and chase my career probably back at home. So that's the key. I think we've got to keep those young kids. In terms of bringing players in, I mean, I'd love to have another really big, strong leader. I'd love to see someone, I guess, look at like Stephen May or Hearn or one of those, McGovern, where they're strong defenders who don't need to dominate the footy. We've got young kids that know how to rack a ball up, but what we don't have is almost a general. And I think that's why it's probably a bit of a big ask. You look at our backline group, and Mackay, being a young kid himself, gets the biggest job every week. And then you think our next defender is Walker, who, don't get me wrong, he's been great and I've loved having him, but that was a player who was probably at the end of his career at some other clubs. So yeah, I feel like if we could somehow bring in a really experienced player who's not just like, I'm at the end of my career and about to call it, but more actually having that kind of aura about him that still, is plenty of football ahead of him and plenty of success ahead of him. But yeah, look, I know it's hard to ask for, but hey, yeah, give me a McGovern, sit him in that centre half back, and I'd be a happy man.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to ask you one more thing. We'll do a little prediction. Give me a little prediction for this week and like a storyline that emerges throughout the game.
What I think it will be, I think that it'll be a bit of a head-to-head battle for half a game of footy. And I think that Carlton could separate in the third. And I could see it being a kind of, 20 to hopefully not 30-point-ish margin, maybe a slower last quarter. What I would like realistically is that North come out from the start, hit it early, hit it hard, like how we were against Sydney, just had the foot on the gas, right there competitive, because I feel like Carlton, as we've seen, are a team that obviously has struggled to close games out. So I'm hoping that we can get a jump early so that if we hit that halftime margin ahead or similar scores, to know then that real pressure is going to be on Carlton, because I know the pressure will obviously be thinking, shit, we've been in this position and just won, So that's my hope. I hope that Big Suv kicks 6. I hope Zerha shows up. He's another player. He's one of my favorite players, but he can also be one of those players that absolutely goes missing. So I think he's due. He needs to really step up. I want to see a massive bump. I want to see a big tackle from him, something that just shows a bit of heart, something that uplifts others, because they're the things that do it. I don't think that someone having 30 or 40 does it, but having someone who puts their body on the line, hits a hard pack, lays a massive tackle, they're things that uplift players. So I want to see that. I want to see a big first quarter bump or tackle from Zerha, the Bull, and hopefully see North run away with it.
All right. So Larky will not be kicking 6. He'll be kicking maybe 1. But Zerha, I can smell it. There's 4 goals written right next to his name. I can already see it. He's the perfect player that we let off the leash every week. If you've got a debutant playing this week as a small forward, he'll be kicking a couple. I think we've got a couple of kids playing as well. We've got some youngsters, some bodies are out. Obviously, we lose Pitto. There's rumours at the time of filming this that George Hewitt's a little sore, so we'll see. But I don't think we'll be blowing you out. I think we'll win by like somewhere between 18 and 25, and I think you will start hot again. And I can just feel the angst already. But if we lose, oh, mate, there'll be scenes.
Yeah, look, and I mean, I obviously hope that does happen. But if I was in your shoes, that would be tough, because then that whole Carlton aura of the past can creep back in. Like losing to a good, like a strong side's one thing, but if you're kind of announcing yourself now 4-1, feeling good, and then come out and lose to a bottom side, that's when things can creep in, thinking, oh, maybe we're not as good as we think. So as I said, I hope for my sake that happens, but for your sake, I know that would be tough.
Yeah. Well, mate, listen, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you coming and joining me and getting amongst it. And good luck with everything. Like I said, proud of you. A lot more to come. The work has only just begun, and I'll speak to you soon.
Love it, Tez. Love what you're doing, mate. Thank you so much for having me.